Okay, so this one is just going to look at how we can look at the letters in a word or a phrase. So I have created a variable that I'm calling message. You could call this anything. This could be your word. And then I've created a target letter that I'm looking for that I just called target. Again, message and target could be whatever variable names you want to use. So I've got my function that I've created is called look at each letter. Now, something to know is that when you're looking at letters in a message like this, we call this a string. So characters together are a string. So when I look at a string, I can number the spaces in each we call them index. Each letter or character in the string has an index that tells you where it is. Unfortunately, unlike most English sort of learning, we don't start counting at 1, we start counting at 0. So the capital I in message is actually at index 0. The space then is index 1, the L is index 2, and so on. So far so good. So there are 12 characters in this string, so therefore our indexes start at 0 and the exclamation point is index 11. Okay, 12 characters means we start at 0 and we end at 11. That's the first thing to know. There are a couple of things we can do. They're kind of like special variables or methods we can use with strings. If we do our string name dot length, which we see right here, this is a variable that means however long the string is. So string name dot length, so in this case message dot length is however long the string is. Substring looks at just a piece of our string, and if we want to look at a single character at a time, we can just say look at this index to the next index, and that'll give us one character. Okay, so this loop that I've done here, this is called a for loop, and the for loop will start at 0 and it will run a number of times through equal to the length of our string. So that's what this line does. This line says create a loop that will run exactly the number of times that equals the length of our string. Each time we increase the index by 1. So we start at 0, so this line says look at one character and compare it to my target. If it equals my target, do something. All right, that's when you're going to want to do something. I'm not sure what you're going to do in your program, but in this case, you would do something. So we're going to compare the message substring to the target. And that substring is only going to look at, this tells us to look at one character, and that's whatever character that I has that value right then. So the first time through our for loop, we start with a value of 0. And then the next time through our for loop, this tells us that we're going to increase by 1. So now I has a value of 1, and so on. So if I run this right now with a target of, let's say, I'm going to change my target to lowercase l, and I run this, we can see I'm printing the target. There is a target, so there is a L at position 2. Again, position 2 is the third character. So it's 0, 1, 2. So it tells us there's an L at position 2. Not so bad, right? Because what happened is this looped through, and the third time through the loop, I had a value of 2, and so it will do a thing. So if I changed this to an E, you can see we've got multiple E's. So when I do this, at position 5, which is the 6th character, there is an E, and then at position 10, there is a second E. Now I'm confused because I thought this was 12 characters long, which would make, oh yeah, that's right. So that is position 10 because the exclamation point is position 11. So at position 10, there is an E. So this is how you can find the individual characters in a message. Now what you choose to do with those, that's up to you. This is just an example of a function you could use that would allow you to identify where all of the specific letters are, and it could be useful in your hangman game.